Hey, everybody, welcome in. If you're a normal American like me, you might not actually know. Maybe I'm just stupid, Paul, but like when they put out these stimuluses, it sounds great. The stimulus checks, it sounds amazing. Everyone's
Did you
getting money.
lie?
It's incredible. I hear inflation is bad, but again, I'm not. I know the general sense of it, but I'd like to learn more. Like, how do these two things interact with each other? What does it mean to normal people? For me, it's like, well, I'm getting a check. Don't know when I'm going to pay for it or who's paying for it, but it feels great. And as we've seen with a lot of other tendencies, is people just go and they do stimulate the economy. They start blowing this money on stuff, and things that might not have value in a down market all of a sudden are getting pumped up, like stocks and housing markets and things and whatnot. So like, where's all this headed? Like stimulus versus inflation, how does all this work? My dear friend, Paul Gabriel.
So Warren Buffett wrote an article in the late 70s when he talks about the effects of inflation. So everybody's got to remember, here's the problem. So he calls it like a hidden tax. And here's the reason why. Let's say you make $100,000 in a year, okay, and your tax rate's 30%, right? You have $70,000 left over. And let's say there's 0% inflation. This $70,000 is $70,000. Okay, now that's pretty good. Let's say you make $100,000 in a year. There's 0% tax. You're like, oh, this is sweet. $100,000. Okay, let's say there's 30% inflation. Essentially, you're left with $70,000 in purchasing power. What's the difference?
Nothing, Mr. Lebowski.
There's nothing. There's no difference. So inflation hurts everyday people a lot. And this is kind of where I get a little uneasy when I hear people say, we need the stimulus now, we'll worry about things later. Because I know what's going to happen. 5-10 years from now, if there is inflation, I'll get to that in a second, people are going to complain, everyday people are being affected by this inflation. Well, duh. Guys, we're putting out trillions of dollars in the economy into people. Why is putting out money in the economy cause inflation? Well, here's why. You put up $2 trillion out there. What are people going to do? They're going to buy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. Okay, well, if you buy stuff, companies have to hire more people. Wonderful. They hire more people. Well, as you hire more people, the supply of people available for jobs decreases. So now you got to start paying more and more money to get people to work for you. Sounds wonderful, doesn't it? Well, when you pay more money, what happens to the cost of goods that you're building with those people? That goes up.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, all these costs start going up. All of your costs overall increase, and that's inflation. So we hear, oh, incomes are going up. But if you have a lot of inflation to make up for that, it's going to hurt you anyhow. Now, are there ways that inflation helps? Yes, if you own real estate, it's a pretty good hedge on inflation because when I say real estate, even your own home, you're paying back a loan at a fixed amount, and as your income goes up, that fixed amount stays the same, right? So you can make benefits from that. But in overall, a little bit of inflation is fine. It's better than deflation because deflation is when prices go down and people then hold off on spending going, well, I just might as well wait a little bit longer, the prices go down. With inflation, people are more likely to spend saying, well, if I wait a year, maybe costs will go up. I don't want that to happen. I'll just buy it now.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear these things talking and people say, like you said, oh, I get money. This is great. Why am I mad about that? Well, you won't be today, but you will be in a few years when your cost to buy everyday goods is much higher.
So it doesn't seem like normal people working, paycheck to paycheck. People really have it rough in this world. They certainly don't appreciate wealthier people like yourself or Elon Musk, who got blasted saying that these stimulus checks aren't going to help us moving forward. Obviously, that doesn't sound pleasing to hit a normal person's ear. Well, the $1.9 trillion
stimulus, how much of that went to actual helping people?
Yeah,
was it like $300 billion?
Yeah,
I mean, how much was
a deep dive into that looked very laughable, right, Mo?
$350 billion.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very small amount. So I look at it saying this is just politicians being politicians.
Mo, you saw some interesting things over there about more stimulus coming. What are you?
Yeah, I was reading this article from that Chairman Powell spoke yesterday. Jerome Powell, chairman of the Fed, also Janet Yellen. But he said that the Fed chief said that there's a fresh round of fiscal stimulus from Congress that will support hiring and broad economic activity as the economy continues to reopen. So that means that another round is coming. I think the total right now is over $12 trillion in stimulus money since the CARES Act back in March of 2020.
So the other thing I have to say about this is, if this has no effect in the future, why do we charge taxes? Just
what do you
print
mean?
Money.
Oh, right. I mean,
why charge taxes? Just print money.
Even as a normal person, I'm starting to be wearisome about it just seems like all of our problems can just be printed away. How does this ever stop? Why not? Why?
If you think for a second that we can do these things, there's no repercussions, you don't understand economics. And I would say that to a guy who's a PhD in economics. There's a thing called the modern monetary theory where they sit there and say that you can just print money, it's fine, and the only reason to charge taxes is to make money have a value. Again, but why even charge any? Why do we argue about higher taxes then? Give us a 5% flat tax and print everything else. Why don't we just do that? Whenever we print money, we're borrowing money essentially, right? We're sitting here and whenever you borrow money, you're taking away from the future. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it in times of emergency, but that's why we talk about having surpluses when times are good and using those surpluses, which is positive cash flow in the government, to pay for bad times like we're having now.
You're talking about government surpluses.
Yes, government surpluses. It's just like you as a person, you have surpluses and surpluses. If you lose your job for 3 months, okay, you have those surpluses to pay for your bad times. No different. But then we sit here and talk about inflation and stimulus and, oh, we're not gonna have any inflation. Well, then why do we even, I'm gonna go back to why do we even charge taxes then? If all we have to do is print money and there's no repercussions, print the money. Don't charge a single tax.
So where do we go from here? What can normal people expect from this?
Just be aware that you have to save your money and your costs will go higher in the long run, most likely. Now, somebody said to me, which is a valid point, because I thought the same thing, in 2008 and 9, we put all this money in stimulus. What happened? Well, it didn't go to the people, it went to the banks. This money is starting to go to the people, even though 1.55 trillion of it is going to whatever crony congressman or congresswoman out there wanted to push to their constituents and friends. I have no idea. But if you think for 1 second that this stimulus is about the American people, $1,400 to every adult making under X amount of dollars is getting it. It's like literally $350 billion of a $1.9 trillion surplus. Somebody's gonna make a comment here like, you don't understand. I don't understand. That's exactly it. I do not understand how we're missing all of this. This will cost money down the road in some way, shape, or form. It is impossible not to. Just like if you eat McDonald's every single day, Quinn, our new intern, is 23 years old. If he ate McDonald's every single day, probably nothing will happen to him for 5 or 10 years and probably longer, but eventually something will happen, right? It's no different. Some people say, hey, look, we did the stimulus. I think there's no inflation. Guys, it's been a freaking year and we're just recovering from this economic calamity. Like, of course, not going to be anything happens, but down the road, there'll be something that happens. And then when you complain, how do you fight inflation? Seth, how do we fight inflation?
I have no clue. How do I fight inflation?
How does the government fight inflation? If costs are skyrocketing, how do you get people to stop spending money? Interest rates?
Yep.
Oh, interest rates, of course.
You increase them.
Yes, of course. So people can't borrow as much. They can't get the big houses, the boats, the cars, yada, yada.
So then the average American will say, I can't afford to buy my starter home. And then you'll complain and say, I can't afford to buy a starter. Well, you wanted the stimulus check. Like, you got to realize that if you want the stimulus check, that's all great and dandy. More power to you. But there are risks involved. I'm not saying this will definitely happen, but it won't happen without some sort of repercussion. If there was going to be any repercussion, don't charge taxes, just print money, do everything, make all the best roads, all the best schools, all that stuff. I won't get into that conversation about how money doesn't really affect school. But anyways, the whole point is interest rates will go up. There will be repercussions down the road. It will affect average Americans more than anybody. Average American, because when a gallon of milk goes from $4 to $8 in a 3-year period, you're not going to be happy. But what am I going to say? Well, remember that $1,400 stimulus you wanted really bad years ago? It's kind of what it costs. I'm not saying it's wrong to do it, but just remember, there are repercussions. Just like, I'm going to go through extreme analogy. We all do things because we have to right now. I have a problem. We do things we have to right now saying, I don't care what happens in the future. And then the future occurs and we go, oh, shoot, I do care. Just like in investing, I want the hype stocks now. When they fall 98%, you can't be upset. When they go to zero, you can't be upset. It's just, that's what happens. We can't have stocks going up 20% a year for the rest of the time. It doesn't work that way.
So, yeah, I like to bring it back to normal folks as our normal viewers, Paul. It still is a confusing thing. I do think you may get some comments like, what were we supposed to do when people don't have jobs?
Save your money. Encourage your congresspeople to have a balanced budget and a surplus. I actually created this thing called One Tax Plan. I had the website up, then I took it down thinking it wasn't going to work. And I actually thought the other day, you know what, this might actually work still. I actually believe if we can agree to a flat tax and a universal basic income for anybody over the age of 18, if you don't want to work, you still get the check. But the key part of it is cutting the budget. The government works differently. The government's the only organization in the world where when they work inefficiently, we give them more money. Oh, you screwed up? Here's more money. Go save your money. Go encourage your Congress people to have smaller government, more efficient government. That's what we have to do. But be ready yourself. Save your money now. That way in the future, when you have hard times, you're able to cover it. Just like the government should be able to. But we've only had 2 years of surpluses in the last 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. 2 years? We got to have surpluses.
It's still one of our most popular episodes is your universal basic income.
Oh, that's good.
For sure. One of our most watched. And we can put the title in the description below as well. That's our take on the stimulus information. If you want to look at more news, obviously you can Google it, but that's Paul's take, and I like hearing it. As always, you can join our Patreon. The description is in the link. Listen to me. The description is in the link below. The link's below this video. The Patreon's incredible. That's all I'm going to say. Our Patrons love it. They're making a ton of money, whether they're in the Bid-and-Ask Nation trading money with Mo, they're in the top tier with Paul talking to you on a daily basis, or you're just in the general lowest tier with a Discord feed. You're talking with people all over the world. If you have questions about anything, not only will you get access to us with exclusive videos, but you get access to that community. And I always say it, I say it again, if you feel alone, you now can have a community and Discord members, the Everything Money family that can answer a lot of your questions, especially when it comes to investing and stocks, real estate, all of it. So that is our take, Paul. I know you get fired up about this. And
I get fired up about not realizing there are repercussions. If something's too good to be true, it probably is. It means there's going to be something down the road.
Oh, no, I think if you go down, if you like Jimmy Kimmel style, if you take a mic on a normal American street.
We should do this sometime.
And ask people, what are the repercussions? Like, who's losing out on this?
Actually, it's a fun idea. We should take a trip sometime to LA, go stand in the corner and ask people basic economic questions and see what they say and investing questions.
That would be a fun show.
See, the great thing was Jay Leno had jaywalking, which makes a lot of sense because he's walking. What's Jimmy Kimmel's called?
I can't remember. It's oh gosh, it's something about lying. It's they try to get people to lie. It's like
we should do this. It's a good idea, Seth.
They'll see how many times they can lie. Oh, you know what they do? They come up and say, "Hey, listen, did you see that talk last night by? Can you believe that Serena Williams said that last night?" And they're like, "No, I can't believe it." You know, they're just lying. They can see how many people they lie. That is a fun show. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
That would be good.
I'm gonna write that down, Paul.
Yeah.
That's our show. That's our take. Fondle the thumbs up on the way out. You know I love you. And we'll see you on that Patreon. See you guys. Thanks so much.